Mitigating risks from ASCOPE and PMESII, or ASCOPE and PMESII. In the context of the WF's idea of the 15-minute city regeneration projects, the use of intelligence frameworks like ASCOPE and PMESII, and that's what I'm going to call it from now for short, introduces both immense potential as well as potential risks. Because these frameworks, which are traditionally employed in military and intelligence contexts, as well as other contexts, corporate espionage and stuff, are now finding a lot of relevance in urban planning and security. And as government, especially in the advent of smart cities, and as governments and intelligence agencies seek to understand the operational environment and gather their most critical information, it is becoming pretty crucial to make assessments and conclusions about how such knowledge can be misused and how much of a serious threat it poses to the 15-minute city concept. So let's take a scenario. Let's imagine the intricate web of a 15-minute city. If you have this studied, so if you are in this project, you will already know what that intricate web means, at least to a certain level, where every service, infrastructure and organization of this intricate web is interconnected, right? It's a smart city, and it's interconnected allegedly to provide residents with accessible and sustainable urban living. However, while this vision is undoubtedly transformative, for sure, without doubt, it opens the door, of course, to malicious or malevolent actors, and foreign enemies, who may seek to exploit vulnerabilities, not who may, they will for sure, and compromise the city's integrity, which is what ASCOPE and PMESII is about. Espionage by enemy nations, terrorist groups, and unethical entities of all forms which are imaginable and which we already know of and which may appear in the future, could quite easily and possibly leverage ASCOPE and PMESII to identify crucial weak points, the Achilles heels of the city, which overlooked safety measures, which may lead to the disruption and sabotage of critical services within the city, as well as many other things which we may be able to imagine and not. And those which we cannot, and the enemy does, there is the Achilles heel. So the consequences of such compromises are pretty dire, in my opinion, and extend beyond just inconvenience. They're not just inconvenient, they're extremely dangerous. They're extreme risks, security risks to mitigate. The fabric of society, transportation, healthcare, utilities, and of course information networks, which is what runs it all and processes it all, they could be targeted, creating a domino effect. That's what scares me, is that a very sophisticated ASCOPE or PMESII or combined ASCOPE PMESII attack targeting a 15-minute city could create a domino effect, by targeting one aspect of the functionality of the city that will affect another aspect, causing everything to fall down in series like a chain effect, like the domino effect, which brings, of course, chaos and instability to the city, and then, of course, after that it becomes vulnerable to any other kind of attacks or intent to destroy or destroy the harmony, the harmonics of the functionality of the city, because it should work through harmonics. If any listeners understand what I mean by that, it's actually harmonics. Our dream, not our dream, the WF's dream, our dream is utopia, but the dream of a harmonious 15-minute city could turn into a nightmare, couldn't it? Like this, if it wasn't adequately safeguarded against such emerging threats. which may use ASCOPE and PMESII methods, yeah, which these days you could call it some kinds of technique, analog and digital hacking mixed with social engineering and surveillance and other kinds of skills, yeah, you need, and technologies as well to perform ASCOPE and PMESII. It's a very complex protocol for weakening a country or a city or an organization or a company. So to preserve the integrity and the vision, if there is any integrity in the vision of the 15-minute city, I believe that to avoid these things happen, these scenarios, proactive measures should be taken to mitigate the risks associated with ASCOPE and PMESII operations. I think extremely comprehensive risk assessments are what people like to say paramount entertainment, pretty paramount, yeah. They're so absolutely essential in identifying potential vulnerabilities which may be unique to this, to the urban context of a 15-minute city, smart city. So, and such an analysis at best should encompass not only the physical aspects and physical risks, but also the ever-evolving cyber realm. In fact, that is more the danger, where protecting the critical digital infrastructure is of utmost importance, yeah? So very robust cybersecurity measures must be established. They should incorporate extremely advanced encryption, intrusion detection systems, and really, really regular security audits through humans and AI. Yeah, but the humans should also, there always has to be a human, because the AI could be infected or it could be an enemy AI. So, and AIs are famous for giving false data. These digital fortifications, which should be put in line, yeah, they should be in the front line like a firewall, yeah, safeguarding against the cyber attacks that could cripple essential systems within the city. Yeah. Enhanced surveillance and intelligence gathering capabilities would, I think, are indispensable tools in detecting and deterring suspicious activities. But of course, it can be used to invade the privacy of the public. So that would cause, in any 15-minute city, implementing these preventative, protective measures to risk mitigate ASCOPE and PMESII ops would also leave the population, through the digital fortification and safeguarding, yeah, and the enhanced surveillance and intelligence gathering, would of course anger the population and make them feel their privacy is being invaded. So that's a risk to mitigate, that by doing one thing you're causing another problem, but if you don't do it, you have a bigger problem. If you don't mitigate, yeah, these kind of attacks. And so you have to put up with you have to pacify the population that they're not being surveilled, that you're trying to protect them. Unless you are using it as an excuse to surveil them. And that is yet to be seen what the real aim of the 15-minute city is, because many are criticizing it, that they're becoming small prisons. You can be locked down. It's not to keep the enemy out, it's to keep you locked in. But that's a different argument and a different talk for a different day. I like to look at all points of view. So these digital fortifications, as I said, should form the front line like a firewall and safeguard against cyber attacks that could cripple essential systems and functionalities that are all connected, like a chain effect, a domino effect within the city. Enhanced surveillance, intelligence gathering, yeah, and to detect and deter suspicious activities. How do you classify a suspicious activity? Well, that's for them to talk about within this risk mitigation that I'm talking about, this discussion, this podcast. To utilize advanced technologies like video monitoring, biometrics, data analytics, all of this could provide invaluable insights, and it does. They're using it in large cities now, into potential insights into potential threats and insights into lots of things, actually, into how to improve the efficiency of the city in many ways if it's a smart city. But we're talking about protecting the city from attacks in the moment. So, and of course, intercollaboration with intelligence agencies would be crucial to exchange information and ensure that real-time updates are there always, that are vigilant against any emerging risks. So there should be notifications of potential risks arising, like red flags. Public awareness and education are equally vital in creating a resilient 15-minute city, which means every citizen is a cooperative soldier of the city. Yeah? So it is part of a plan, and some people call this brainwashing, right? So use propaganda or advertising or whatever, to instill a culture of awareness among the citizens and the key stakeholders of the city, to encourage reporting of suspicious activities. So neighborhood watch, basically. So also human surveillance through every citizen. You tell on your neighbor. Thus, this should form a collective defense against any potential threats of the type we are speaking of, yeah? Meaning ASCOPE and PMESII. And implementing training programs for the people and promoting responsible digital practices, so teaching people how to surf the internet safely, could minimize vulnerabilities. That would have to be a program, a free public program. And apart from that, to address the complexity of the 15-minute city is pretty difficult. So this would require a multidisciplinary approach with government agencies, private sector entities, and research institutions, and other NGOs and governments and ministries should join forces, and public groups, to tackle security challenges collectively. Information sharing, joint exercises between different bodies, organizations, and leveraging diverse expertise. So multidisciplinary expertise through sharing through different departments and different fields of expertise, yeah, to share your knowledge. So you get knowledge about the other person's expertise and then about yours, which increases your ability to recognize threats. So this could lead to the development of comprehensive security strategies, reinforcing the city's resilience against such potential threats, yeah, as ASCOPE and PMESII. So, to give a final summary of everything I've just talked about, which I believe anybody except actually people who are specifically focused in this particular topic might not understand. So I'll summarize that the realization of the 15-minute city is a vision that might be worth pursuing if it is for the right reasons and with the right goals and done in the right way, because it's sustainable, and it offers the promise of sustainable and livable urban environments, like living in a nice country village for everybody instead of dirty cities. However, I think that we should confront the reality of potential risks, especially those in power, which means the G40 and the WEF and Mr. Schwab, Herr Schwab, sollte daran an diese Sachen denken. Mr. Schwab should think on these things. That we should confront the reality of these potential risks posed by ASCOPE and PMESII operations, and that we should assume take on a proactive and multidisciplinary and multidimensional and multifaceted approach, multilateral approach, in order to ensure a higher probability of safety and longevity and sustainability of the 15-minute city concept, so that it doesn't become impossible before it even became manifested. So maybe it would be nice to ask the WAF and maybe humanity and the governments of the world who perform these illegal espionage operations and perform ASCOPE and PMESII to stop doing it. Then we won't have to mitigate it. Because the people who are doing it, it's a death sentence thing, and it's espionage, which is illegal, but governments tend to look at it as normal practice, even though it's illegal, so they accept each other doing it, even though if you get caught, you're in trouble. And I would ask the governments of the world to start, if you want humanity and the common people and the proletarians and the working class to start helping the planet and to collaborate, then you should also make a good example of the WEF, the United Nations, and the member states and all the stakeholders, including NGOs, companies, yeah, elites, yeah, investors, people who donate, people who are philanthropists, yeah, like Bill Gates and stuff, to give the example first if you want us to collaborate, right? So stop using ASCOPE and PMESII operations on your enemies and ask them to stop doing it and do a contract that you won't do it anymore. And actually don't just sign the contract, but keep doing it as always. Yeah, work as usual, business as usual. Stop doing it. And then we won't have to mitigate this. It's not the people who are causing this risk, it's governments, because only governments have the power to perform ASCOPE and PMESII operations, for golly's sake. So, who are the people causing the need for risk management and security of a nation or a city? The governments. So stop doing it. Stop doing it. It's you who's doing the evil, illegal, death sentence crimes, and you're considering it common practice. Just stop spying on each other and leave every country to have their own superiority and their own specialty. If you've got this superiority, they've got another one. So what? You've got nuclear weapons? Well, if you bomb them, you're screwed, because they've got all the salt and they've got all the what would you call it, magnesium carbide, titanium or whatever for your aircraft wings. You're not going to bomb their country. You're going to destroy all your own assets that you buy from them. So stop being afraid, you governments, and stop behaving like little children and endangering the whole world. Stop asking the whole world and the common people to collaborate in something that you yourselves are not collaborating in, because you're performing ASCOPE and PMESII operations on cities and countries and corporations, and you shouldn't be. Because if you didn't do it, we wouldn't have to mitigate this, and we wouldn't have to send you risk management podcasts and essays and white papers to explain to you how the actual solution to stop all the problems in the world is if you guys in power stop causing the problems, because it's you causing them, not us. Yeah, with your geopolitical financial decisions that are Machiavellian and pragmatic, right? So if you stop doing that, then this world will be a better world. So stop blaming it on the environment, stop blaming it on companies that make poisonous plastics, blame it on yourselves, yeah? Because it's governments with their ASCOPE and PMESII and sabotage. So, yeah, to ensure the safety and longevity of your 15-minute city concept, WF, you have to work together, and that means you too, to preserve the vision of the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum itself has to make sure that all governments and stakeholders realize that they have to refrain from all of this kind of interest in operations like ASCOPE and PMESII against friends or enemies, yeah, and that has to be stopped. Until then, it has to be mitigated, yeah? So we can create a future where accessible and efficient urban living flourishes, yeah, and is resilient against any adversary, and that we shouldn't have any adversaries. Just get rid of the adversaries who seek to exploit vulnerabilities for their own gain, and stop being the adversary of other countries and other organizations, and stop seeking to exploit vulnerabilities for your own gains. Yeah, you want to mitigate the vulnerabilities? Well, stop causing vulnerabilities, because as people are spying on you, you are spying on them, not us, the common people. And so, UN, WAF, all the countries of the world, all the governments, all the administrations, all the secret services, all the elites, all the stakeholders, everybody in the Panama and the Paradise Papers, the City of London, and to all members of the Order of the Garter in the House of Lords and in the Royal Palace of Great Britain, I would say, if you really want a better world, stop asking us the people to create it by collaboration with your projects, and just stop doing what you're doing, because it's you who's caused it in the first place, not us. Yeah? You've caused a big problem and you're continuing to do it, and you're asking us to help you solve it whilst you continue to increment the problem, because you're not helping to solve it. You're actually just asking us to solve it while you continue destroying the world with your own nefarious affairs. Ajahn Spencer, for the people of the world, speaking to the WF, Herr Schwab, from the Rising Sun and the Order of the Garter and the Knights Templars, Grand Master of the Knights Templars, to stop your eternal war, yeah, with the Templars and the Assassins and the Brotherhood of Light. Stop playing your power games, because we all get born old, sick and die, like the Buddha said, and all of your dreams of grandeur and fame are going to end with you in a coffin. And so what's the point in your grandeur and fame? You're not going to change the world. Leave us alone and stop your nefarious 15-minute prisons. Ajahn Spencer, talking to those evil people in those evil organizations, signing off.